Thank you. It's now 3 p.m. I'd like to open the meeting of the 13th of October for the West Coast Wilderness Tribe Subcommittee. First on the list is apologies, and we have apologies from the Worship Mayor, Councillor Mandrick, Paul Mandrick, Councillor Haddock, and the DOC personnel, Gosman and Tim Bryan. So I'd like to move that we accept their apologies. Someone like to move that?
Yep.
Jackie, Gertie, second.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. The declaration of interest. We've got a hard copy here, and we've also circulated that around electronically. Next on the list is urgent items. I take it there's no urgent items.
No.
Minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 11th of June. I'd like to confirm that's correct and record of that meeting. Would someone like to move that, please?
Yeah, I will. Come on, I wasn't there, was I? Sorry.
Yeah, I would move the minutes.
Thank you, Jeff. And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favour, say aye.
No.
Those moved. Now, minutes of statement. I, the Chair, approved that the digital signature be added to confirmed community development and community meeting minutes of the date, the 11th of June. The next on the list is the presentation, and the first one is Jackie Gurdon for the Shantytown.
Right. Will I just give that from here? It's not a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Second one.
Okay.
Yeah. If that's, are you happy
Yep.
with that? Yeah. So with the Shantytown Loop project, we've had a meeting with the members of the Grey District Council and with Shantytown, and John Strange at that. We had a look at what all the options could be for that. There are a number of those that have come up. There are three main options for going in and out, with certainly on the third one, on the southern end of it, 3 options of alternative routes for exiting Shantytown. And where we got to with that, we're looking probably at a preferred way of going in where the kiosk is. These have been mapped, but there have been no discussions with the landowners, and Councillor Haddock was going to have the conversations with the landowners, and that hasn't happened to date. So the map we've got remains in-house, confidential, until those landowners have been spoken to. And from here, we will map out the business case, and John, once we know the position of the landowners, John will then map out where the trail best routes are. The intention to have that go forward into the Greater District Council long-term plan. So that's really a very quick overview of it, but we've got that process in place, and we've got some definite alternatives that could go in, could be considered, all with different pros and cons with them for that Shantytown loop to be developed. So perhaps if I can ask if John's got any further comment he wants to make on that from that meeting.
Not particularly.
That's a summary.
There is a reasonably easy corridor in on what is a full length of road reserve, but it comes with a rail crossing and a highway crossing. But there is a pretty low hanging fruit there to do something quite quickly. The Shantytown we're quite excited about.
The other comment I'd make too is that it could, part of this could sort of shift and develop this into another sort of little destination in itself. And over time, it may well be that this, it becomes a location that people perhaps stay and develop that whole Paroa Shantytown area as a further destination. So we might be adding another day with the little bits that keep getting added on to the trail to help benefit the communities and the economy of the districts. So yeah. And
the bigger when Jackie mentions the options 1, 2, 3, there's a bigger loop that comes down to New River, which involves a suspension bridge or two, and kind of would make a nice little loop at the southern end of Greymouth before the Taramacau. And I know there's people go mountain biking in that area now. So there's Untitled Forest, there's opportunities there that could expand into a wider, that's a bit of a area that could become a biking place for Greymouth. So that would be quite good.
Are there any questions from anyone else regarding that presentation?
Have you got provisional costings identified for the 3 options?
not yet.
It had been kind of costed in that original, so Mel had with the original cycle trail Shantytown side loop. So there's sort of a little bit of knowledge, but nothing's been applied now yet.
Any further questions?
No, thanks.
Someone like to move that we accept Jackie's report? Opposed? Got to move it?
Move yourself.
All right. And a seconder?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next report, Jackie, you're on again.
Yep. So Gentle Annie, so went and with John, we mapped that out. I worked with the Kamara Junction community and had some on-site meetings and some meetings with the stakeholders involved. And then we went down and with yourself and did a recce on through that particular site and prepared the application, and that went into MB. I understand that application was declined from MB. It went through, it followed down the side of the river nicely. Kate could have come out at the Scout Den and then go on through to where the coast to coast starts, and then in the future could have had a development back up the road linking with Kamara Junction and then coming right round to the Taramacau Bridge and linking back into the trail there. So that was declined, and it is now, there are meetings, as I understand, being organised with the Kamara Junction community to look at them developing that project as a community project. So we really had to test the water with MB to see if we could get the 50% funding from them, and it was probably a little bit of a long shot and it was declined, but we gave it a good stab. So, yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, someone like, sorry?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. Would someone like to move? We accept that report?
Yeah, well.
And second? I'll see that yourself. Okay, thanks Jackie, thanks for the report.
Right, so 7 Golden Gullies, west of Calvin.
Sorry.
This is just a very brief PowerPoint with a few pictures in it on just explaining 7 Golden Gullies. So pretty much, so the whole purpose behind 7 Golden Gullies is really about building Ross and helping build Ross as a destination, and pretty much to try and retain people from the cycle trail in Ross, and also for people who aren't necessarily part of the cycle trail. So it's an extension proposed down the southern end of Ross, down the hills on the eastern side of the road. It's not a new proposal. It came up, as I understand, in 2015 with the 150-year celebrations of Ross. And it's all about trying to create Ross as a destination and also increase the economic benefit back into the Ross communities. The trail proposed is about 5.4 kilometres long. The estimates, and that's meant to be 3.3 kilometres for the hillside of it, and these estimates are ones that David Inwood prepared for us before he left. The beach section is around 200k, and then there's some jolly good opportunity for interpretation panels. It's a really historic area down there. So in terms of the 7 Golden Gullies, there are the 7 gullies themselves. Some of them are quite significant. So Donohue's led to the discovery of Ross, and the Mont d'Or. So Ross was technically the Ballarat of Westland, so a lot of us sort of drive through it and don't realise how important it was for its gold history. So the Donohue's is where that started. It also had all forms of gold mining in it and continues today. So it's quite a significant town for that. And it's all those little gold gullies have a lot of importance to them. That's where the map of it goes. It's predominantly one private landowner who I think was one of the original proposers of the project, but it needs to be further mapped, and some of it's on an easement. And that's just a little bit hard to see, but that's the gullies that run along the side of the hilltop. So that's in a nutshell 7 Golden Gullies proposal, and we've really got to map that out a little bit further. So it's initially putting it into the plan and then continuing the work. It extends the other work we're doing through the Western Cultural and Heritage Tourism Development Project, which is looking at Ross as a destination. So we're particularly looking at the whole upgrade of that as a centre and eyesight there as well. And there are 1 or 2 other proposals that just help grow Ross. So that's that one in a nutshell. Happy to take any questions.
Jackie, who's the private landowner?
John
Dumbia.
Dumbia.
Thank you. Any further questions on it? Someone like to move? A second that we accept the presentation. I'll move that for a second.
Me, yeah.
Thank you. Number 6, Milltown, Weir Crossings. Louis.
Thank you. So the Milltown Weir crossings, we continue to work on a solution at the weirs. John Strange has been involved in looking at alternative options for us around the weir crossings, and We've now got a preliminary route plotted out, which needs to be recce'd out in the bush. Ian John's planning to do that shortly, where we're going to move further downstream from the weirs. The weirs itself has a problem that the water actually spills out from the weirs and requires quite a long bridge in a lot of level raise on existing trail to actually make that work, which is rather costly. So I believe a better solution is to create a bridge crossing downstream from the weirs and stay away from that location. John, is there anything you want to add at this stage?
Probably should note that I've reviewed the site visits we've done in the past with Trustpower, and the little presentation that Jeff, yourself and Dave Ritchie put together in terms of consideration of the high water alternative options, and been out and had a look and then sort of looked through and talked to Dave Ritchie and looked at the contours and the land ownership and the issues, and I've had a chat with Tim Brownlee before we go out there this week, and just looked at where is the most stable part of the current river downstream of the two weirs, and a potential single crossing, and a place where you might achieve better grades all the way through and least length of track. So we've got a couple of places to go and look at. So it's downstream of the two weirs where the two flows join and then carry on down, and look at moving across onto the dockland. So just go and look at those options, because I know in the presentation that Jeff, yourself and Dave put together, you looked at how you could take the decision-making process away from the cyclist, because the cyclist is the worst person in the world to be making a decision on something they know nothing about. And in my mind, the best option is, probably one of the better options, is to move them right away from that whole water race. Because once you get on it and see it, you want to continue along it. You want to climb a fence and stay on the road maybe, and not even come down the hill into there. Move along a bit further, lose some height on the road, and then come across and find a way in to join into the existing track. So current thoughts are, you've got the Serpentine Bridge, Serpentine from Cowboy Paradise over onto Mawhereland, and then potentially a sidle around without much height change and find another crossing, and then sidle around and join the road on the far side. So we'll go and tease it out and with Tim, and then I guess come back and present to the wider group what we found and what the options might be. So really it's kind of an opportunity to go and take current knowledge and identify some options.
So through the chair, just a question regarding, previously it was discussed there was always a challenge to get back up onto the trail. So you're proposing to actually carve a new trail at a lower level, is that?
When you say get back onto the trail,
So
you mean from the high water route?
Yeah.
Currently that goes along and drops right down to the main river.
Yeah.
And then comes back up through Milne. So it's got to cross, traverses Dock, another owner, Dock and Milne. This would be effectively similar route to the current Weirs route, but just a bit further down the valley. So crossing that stream quite a lot higher up than the road bridge.
Okay.
Still in the forest, and the contours show that you could pretty much sidle perhaps round from the current Serpentine Bridge. It is Serpentine, isn't it?
It's not.
No, McPherson. Sorry,
McPherson.
McPherson.
Yeah.
For the current suspension bridge, is that a similar contour to further round?
So you're saying there's still two options available for the rider if the weirs are low. Or is the weirs closed off permanently?
I think the ultimate,
Just to
one
close.
ultimate is to not use the weirs
That's what I'm saying.
ever. Because then the decision-making process on, and the whole, the biggest nightmare I see at the moment and biggest risk is this decision-making process over the weirs. Are they open or not? And you've got no real-time information. You've got no cell cover. You've just got people concerned about it. I was in a meeting with Jackie the other day, and that was her parting comment, just had to go and do this closure thing. Yeah, so removing it completely. And I know that was, Jeff, in your memo thing, that the ultimate is to take it away from it.
Yep.
And from looking at the aerial photos and my general observations, trying to cross both of those two streams downstream of the weirs themselves looked tricky. One looked like it was in a defined gully, a defined channel. The other looked to be a bit more meandering. By the time they come back together and turn the corner, they're in a bed that they've always been in. And they're not as affected by the weirs cause this thing to stir up, settle down, throw debris, and then they eventually come back together and they're back in their bed that hasn't changed. So and there's a place or two that look like they're slightly gullyish or gorgy, in which case there might be a high point for a suspension bridge, which would be presumably quite nice. So it's going to walk up the stream and look at a couple of those points as to do they work, yes, no, and if they do, where are they contour-wise? These days we've got way more contour information than we had back before, and if the attraction of the weirs is taken out of the equation, you kind of look with a wider picture as opposed to how do you get off the weirs and back on the weirs. And for Trustpower, it might just remove a nightmare.
Oh, it do, yes.
And I know one of the other aspects, so we've got the weirs, but also what was raised was the first ford. There's a concrete ford not long after you reach the water, and
Yes.
some have been swept sideways on that.
Yes, yes, they had that, John, totally right.
Tim, I raised that with Tim, and he said, well, look, Trustpower are actually planning to lengthen that and renew it, which would make the better control for them over stream, because that's their way of controlling take and putting back, but it would make it less risky because it would be a thinner flow. But it's another thing they have to do, and there's still going to be people coming through it. And so there's 3 points there to manage, not just two.
Are you planning to go down the road first and then cross?
Correct.
So
So instead of turning into the Trustpower
Yeah.
and where the gate is, you would carry past that, continue, it's a nice side descending grade, before it goes really steep.
Oh, okay.
So it's still in that, I've got a topo plan here, Louis might have one with him. While it's still a reasonably nice grade,
Okay.
and then comes sideways, sort of sidling, and then across with a bridge, and hopefully sidle and come around to McPherson Creek.
Okay.
So taking a lot of the altitude out of it, or a lot of the height, the climb.
My worry was I believe the grade of that road is...
Oh, it gets horrendous because it's so gradual, and then it's not.
Right.
Yeah, so it's before that.
Good.
And going, Earl Bensich hasn't been out there, so it'll be good fact finding for him. And it's just myself, Louis, Earl, and Tim. I think at this point, that's what's been arranged, to go and have a look.
Chair, would you like to go too, Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. The next time, John, when we do a presentation on it, it'd be really good just to have a map so that people can actually see,
Sure.
What you talk about, like the Carson's Creek and the bridge and the alignments and stuff.
John, do you have any idea as to what estimate of new trail you'd end up with under your proposal?
It's just a pencil on a map.
Yeah.
We had a conversation yesterday that I presented some thoughts after having reviewed the information. Don't know. I'd have to guess.
Could it be a couple of kilometres? Because I think that's what we were thinking it was likely to be at the most.
I think looking at, got a piece of paper here. It could be something in that category.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple of kilometres and a bridge, which could be not too dissimilar to McPherson's.
Yeah, well, a bridge is roughly 3k a metre.
Yeah.
And assuming something like that, well, I don't know how long that bridge is, 30 metres long or something,
Yep.
I'd guess.
McPherson's.
McPherson's. Don't know, it'd be something like that, 30 metres or.
30 metres down.
Okay.
And just another question, John, how many landowners would it be with the,
So it's Mawhira and Doc.
okay.
I'll apologise in advance for, I didn't think that I was presenting anything, so I was just talking.
Just an update, we actually scribbled some on paper yesterday, so
Yeah.
it was the last minute. But thanks, John.
Any further questions on the Milltown Weir crossings at all? All good?
That sounds positive, John. Well done.
Yep. Good work. Someone like to move and second that presentation?
Yep, I would.
Thank you. And Jackie, got that. Thank you. Next on the list is the final elements of the 10-year plan. Lauren?
We did. Yeah.
So just to give an update in terms of where we've got to in terms of the long
Sorry,
term.
I'll try and make it as
Yeah.
clear as possible, but.
So we've, since the last discussion, there has been some changes to the 10-year view of the long-term plan. We still have yet to confirm Canary Stage 3 in terms of what that scope of work looks like, and finding a route that gets riders off the road without taking out the Canary, I suppose, township area around that. So that is still highlighted in yellow there. In terms of stage 2, we've locked in that value, 1.4 million approximately. We have a number for Mahinapur Loop at 3.7. There is potential that this is a standalone project and currently could sit under another scheme, but we'll hold it in the plan until we've got that validated. There's some background work happening in that space. The Wainini, you can see we've got 3.2 million, 320,000 put aside for the Wainini works, which will mean we need to get some funding if we're going to do this new route. Just if you scroll down to the bottom, what I've actually identified each project, whether there's likely co-investors that would be partners in these projects. And I've made some assumptions. These are purely assumptions. We haven't validated these with the likes of MV or DOC or NZTA at this stage. And it's unlikely we'll be getting confirmation from that prior to the long-term plan. So we're taking it as an assumption that this is will do. If those don't eventuate as co-funders, we'll have to reassess the viability of each project accordingly. The only other change that we've made since the last session was we've increased the cost of a Mahinapur viewing platform. Can you go back to the top, Emma, please? So we've taken that, we've added another 50,000 based on current costings provided by DOC. So, and we potentially already have co-funders in this space to actually help with that funding. And the rest is the same as the last update. Oh no, the only other thing we've added is 7 Golden Gullies, and we'll put that into 2027-28 year. Bearing in mind that this is an estimate of the projects for the next 10 years, we have to put this into the long-term plan budget and see if it actually is affordable. So this is only a provisional position on the asset management plan. Whether it's actually affordable in the actual council budget is still to be ratified. So thank you to Jackie and Louis for helping pull this together. Happy to take questions.
Just on the overall cycle trail itself, I've heard a lot of positive comments from users about the cycle trail, and even some of the there's a I forget the name of the tour company. I've got 10 trips planned, and they reckon it's just fantastic. So it's really good credit to you guys what you've done on it so far today. So really good stuff. I hear that, Jeff.
So just to make another comment, what we've tried to focus on in the next couple of years is resolving safety elements of the trail, getting off-road, and also resolving the total bridge safety elements as well, in terms of there are some, we've got I suppose a central fund for minor works, and also some safety countermeasures, as well as a year-on-year fund that will just draw on as required, rather than actually getting it down into specifics.
Any further questions?
This WEARS, so currently it's looking at what an improved or an alternative route is. In parallel with that, what happens, what is the management plan around the high water route? Because I keep hearing kind of
So the management
differing kind of stories on what actually is possible right now.
So the council will take the decision in terms of operational day-to-day elements, in terms of whether the weirs need to be closed. That's based on our best knowledge at that time. We obviously can't monitor it hour on hour, but we'll make monitoring as feedback comes in, and make an assessment when that likely will be open as well. We've agreed with a common message to go out. We've worked with Jeff and with the Trust and with the Destination Westland on the best messaging that goes with it. We're basically putting with all our messaging a general message saying that the hazards on the trail will be managed by us and will be taking into account the rider safety in all our decision making.
Is there a high water route now, or is that not available?
Not available.
Right, that's the bit I didn't really know.
So until the bridge replacement has been completed, there is no alternate route.
So I guess we'll see that driving past it through the river this week.
Yeah, I was hoping Tim would be here today to get an update on that progress of that reinstatement of that bridge.
The bridge is finished.
Is it?
I believe so.
Whether it's open or not?
No, I don't think it's open.
No, that's another thing.
Oh, okay.
And,
So
and
that's
then
right.
and then there's the outstanding approval of all the parties to pass through their land, I believe.
No. So that's the alternate route can still be utilised.
Right.
The funding element of that was to do with getting easements. So it can still be used as it was previously,
Right.
as long as the landowner agreements are, we have discussions prior to getting it open again.
Right.
But in the interim, the funding element is basing on getting legal easements verified.
Right. And is there intention, in parallel with this alternative options or route investigation, to have I think in the minutes from that June meeting, there was a comment on having some kind of either camera or sensing device there with some communications out. Is that still intended?
Definitely, it requires obviously coverage of out there. So the last conversation I had with GC, they were looking at the weather station in terms of being able to get down into the valley in terms of cell phone coverage. That is obviously a couple of years away. I haven't had any update from them since that last meeting. That will resolve a lot of angst.
So it's not like it's short term anyway to go in keeping with the high water route. So it's running in parallel with the alternate route.
Yeah. But if we don't have an issue with your proposal in terms of getting that funded and also takes the weirs out of play altogether, that's our ultimate goal.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Okay, thanks.
I think further, any more questions on that?
There was one other element that I just wanted to raise, and that obviously was raised by John in terms of safety crossing across by the historic bridge in Manipur, getting across from the golf course across the highway and the line of sight. We do have some concerns about the safety elements of that, so we need to work through that as part of the funding package as well.
So, sorry, what was that crossing the?
From this information sign.
Crossing the main road?
Yeah.
The highway?
Yeah. Okay. So we had a meeting with the landowners across the other side yesterday in terms of potentially a resolution for parking. It's got to be expanded further.
Okay.
I haven't got a resolve for that yet.
Nothing further. Good afternoon, Your Worship. That's about it. That's the finish of the meeting. So we'll close the meeting. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry, Louis. Just got to have a seconder. A move and a second for Louis' presentation. Jackie? And
Proposal second.
thank you. Right.
Thank you. Just before we do close up, and I'm sorry to raise this, is it possible that, Louis, could you give us an update on the current trail section behind Canary? How are you feeling about that? What's your timeline looking?
Through the chair, the time frame for that is it will be open before Christmas. We got extension from MB for that project actually this morning. It was confirmed. So the culvert has now been ordered, and that's the last bit that needs to be completed. So instead of a bridge, the spiral bridge that was originally planned for, we have a culvert, so over for the cyclists to negotiate that level rise at the end of the trail there. So yeah, we will be open before Christmas.
Okay, thank you.
Happy, Jeff?
Yep, yeah, very happy. Thanks, Tanker.
Thank you.
No further questions?
No further questions for me.
Okay. Looks like we're going to be finishing up before 4. Just got to close the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.